resignations. Okay.
Thought you were asking what time it was.
Sarah, let me know when you're ready.
I just hit the go live, so just give YouTube 1 second to catch up and we're ready to go.
I don't have a gavel, so I'll just get a pen. That's all my notes. It's probably Derek. He was here last.
Oh, let me get that for you.
Yes, please.
Got it.
Results. 6 weeks. 3 months.
Give me 1 second, Jason. Technical difficulty.
It's crazy.
Everything's on, everything's lifted.
I might have been more.
It's being handled by the local, not the local, the state. Yeah. Delayed by a gavel.
I can't use a pen tonight. Use your hand. Meeting called to order. Today is Tuesday, March 1st.
Imagine that.
Imagine it's already March 1st. It is now 6:05. Town Council meeting in the Town Council Chambers, 1170 Main Street, West Warwick, Rhode Island. Mark, you lead us in prayer.
Father, we're grateful that we live in a community that we can get together and have these meetings as a democracy. And we know, Father, that democracy is under attack, particularly in Ukraine right now. And we pray, Father, that you be with those who are making decisions over there, bring peace into their hearts and into their minds. So hopefully this can be resolved soon. Father, for us tonight, help us to also be peaceful in our discussions. Help us to seek truth and honesty and in accordance with the laws of the land. And help us, Father, to be obedient to your will. Father, we also pray for those who have lost loved ones recently. Watch over them and their families and give them the peace they need within their hearts. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
James, in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Councilman Licciardi,
Here.
Councilman Bourget,
Here.
Councilman Messier.
Here.
Council Vice President Williamson. Here. And Council President Goslin.
Here.
Quorum is declared. Ordinances, ordinance approving an extended tax incentive and stabilization program for 95 Washington Street, first reading.
Before we take any action, and I don't know if you want to speak on it, but Mr. Wilbur contacted me today and asked me to withdraw this item from the agenda tonight, and he'll be back at a further date. So should we table it for the next meeting?
I think,
or-
he wants to hear it at a later date.
He just said remove it. He didn't get into specifics. It was via text.
You can, if you keep it tabled, it'll just stay there until they're ready to go. I don't know if they're gonna create something new.
At the worst, we table, and then at that point, we can,
Yeah, sure, table it once, and then if nothing happens, you
I'm
can
gonna make
take
a
it off
motion to
then.
table this item.
Second.
Moving second, any discussion?
What if they bring up something that's not the same thing?
Then we would
If
just put a
it's
new-
new, you can start the process all over again.
This is, and quite honestly, I haven't had the opportunity to digest it and understand it. And I was going to ask that it be tabled anyway, selfishly. So I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
Hearing
Not
none.
selfishly.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Consent agenda, approval of the minutes from the February 15th, 2022 regular town council meeting, approval of addition of taxes, approval of cancellation of taxes, and resolution authorizing payment for the reconstruction of McCarthy and Rayna Fields from American Rescue Plan funds.
I would move the consent agenda.
Second.
Moving second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Licenses, request from 293 PBD LLC doing business as Boomerangs, 293 Providence Street for dance live band license.
Recuse myself.
I am actually going to move that we table that item. I've had some conversations and the fire marshal has indicated there are a number of issues that need to be addressed before we could even entertain. And he has been in discussions with the applicant. They are ongoing. So I would table it if we could.
I'll second that.
I have a motion to table seconded. Any discussion from the council? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
So it's 4-0, right? Yes.
Yep. Request from Little Bees Barbecue LLC for hawkers and peddlers.
Move the license.
Second.
Moving second, any discussion? Any public discussion on this license? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
And lastly, Alan Ward doing business as A&S Novelty for balloons and novelty license.
Move the license.
Second.
Moving second, any discussion? Any public discussion on this license? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Appointments and resignations. Resignation from the West Warwick Recreation Committee and resignation from the West Warwick Library Board of Trustees.
Move acceptance of the resignations.
Second.
Moving seconded, any discussion? Can't see this. From the-
Tammy Collins is resigning from the Library Board of Trustees,
Yep.
and she's actually put in a good word for someone who else is going to apply, but that will be at another meeting.
Later date.
And then,
I can't hear you in the back.
I'm sorry,
Are the microphones on?
sorry. Very rare that someone says they can't hear me. So, yeah, Tammy Collins is resigning from Library Board, and Michael, Gorvin is
Gorvin.
actually resigning from the Recreation Committee.
Any other comment? Sarah, if you can send them a letter of thank you for their service.
Will do.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, new business, proposed appointment procedure for boards, commissions, and committees.
I would move the resolution.
Second.
Moving seconded. Al?
On this item, first, I'd like to address item K on your agenda. There's been discussion on and off about how that item should read, so I worked with Sarah.
Wait a minute, Al, we're not on K. We need to only talk
Yeah,
about,
but this is the same part of, it's part of the appointments that I wanted to address.
okay,
That what we did, this was all part of revising how the appointments were made. And the first thing was how they're put on the agenda that I know Mark has questioned on several occasions. So what Sarah and I came up with, we have the name of the board, then we have whether it's an appointment or reappointment. Then we have whether it's an alternate or a regular, and then we have the term. So that in each instance, I think the council knows exactly what they're dealing with. With that background, going to the resolution, the present setup for the appointment to committees is that it goes only on the council agenda. And it goes on the council agenda for 3 council meetings before you can make an appointment. That means the quickest it would be 2 weeks. But if you get into the summer, as Mary Beth has pointed out, it could be several months. So what Sarah and I talked about was that if you're given notice that an appointment, that somebody's, that an appointment's coming up, within 1 month, it goes on the next calendar agenda. If you're notified that someone is leaving or resigning, within 1 week, it goes on the next council agenda. And then instead of the only place the vacancies being advertised is on the council agenda, for 10 consecutive days. It will be advertised in the town hall and on the website. So in talking with Sarah, we've both felt that there's a chance that a lot more people will see it over those 10 days than just being posted on the agenda. Once those 10 days have elapsed, it then goes back onto the council agenda. And at the next council agenda, if you have applicants, you can move to make the appointment. So it could be done within a 2-week period. If you don't make the appointment, just like it is now, it stays on the agenda until such time as you do get an appointment. So the theory that Sarah and I thought was that by putting it 10 days posted in the town hall and 10 days on the website, you got a lot more publicity than you do from just putting it on a council agenda. So that's basically what the resolution that we're proposing to you. As far as Mary Beth, you asked about an ordinance. I reviewed the charter and the ordinance. There are no ordinances regarding the appointment. David had mentioned Peter Calci, and his record keeping is incredible. I spoke with Peter. He has no recollection of the process that you're now using. So again, working with Sarah, we both felt that the easiest way to go with this was by way of resolution, so that the council has the ability to change it if they don't like the way it's working.
Perfect. Thank you, Al.
Any questions for Al? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Discussion of response to open meetings complaint filed in regard to the January 18th, 2022 executive session.
Mark, you asked for this to be on the agenda.
Yes. I know Mr. Williamson told us to be careful what we say on this because it still has not been finalized by the Attorney General's office, but my problem, my question, the reason why I wanted it on the agenda is what was sent to Mr. Palazzo pretty much was what was discussed in executive session. And I don't know if that was an accident. I don't know if that was intentional, like you had to send it that way, or so I'm just looking for some guidance as to, did we screw up again by sending out that?
Well, before I answer your question, I have to put the council on notice of the fact that because there is no waiver of attorney-client privilege or confidentiality, you're only one member of the council. So if a majority of the member of the council wants me to speak in public, I can, but you're going to have to take a vote to waive confidentiality and privilege on this particular issue.
Well, it's not a confidentiality thing. If it just, you sent it, it's public. It's out in the public now.
I can speak about that. That speaks
That's
for
all we're
itself.
talking about.
That speaks for itself. You made mention of the fact that we screw up again. I will say, no, we did not.
By
But-
screw up again, I mean by
Oh, yeah.
sending that out completely to a citizen is what I mean.
He's not a citizen in this case. He's the applicant. He's the complainant. So as such, I could have filed it either in camera or to him directly. I decided to file it to him directly because the council had already decided not to pursue the gentleman pursuant to the discussion in executive session, and it was going to go to the interlocal trust. And there were conversations with a representative of the interlocal trust about that.
And can you just explain in camera?
Sure. In camera would mean that if I presented it in camera to the Attorney General, they would review that without Mr. Palazzo's ability to see it. However, they could make a judgment after the fact to allow him to see it anyway. And believe me, while you may think it was what we discussed in executive session, it had been discussed prior to that. And that's why I don't want to get into the confidentiality privilege fact. It had nothing to do with executive session. As a matter of fact, the issue was simply the case law as it stands allows that type of presentation by the clerk on the agenda as it relates to potential litigation.
I get that part, but that's my concern is just what was sent to Mr. Palazzo. Was it legally sent to Mr. Palazzo?
In my opinion, yes.
In your opinion, yes. Okay. That's the reason why I want it on here is because I want to make sure that we're doing things the right way and mistakes happen,
Sure.
Everybody's hit send when they're like, didn't want to do that, so mistakes happen. I don't have a problem with mistakes. my problem is we seem to, as Mr. Palazzo points out an awful lot, seem to be on the Attorney General's radar an awful lot. And, you know, I just didn't want to have just one more thing that puts us on the radar of the Attorney General's office.
Okay.
So that's my only reason for putting it on here, is just to make sure we have it out in the open, whether or not it was something that was legally done, and it's not something that's going to come back to bite us again after this.
Any other questions or comments?
I have a question. All right. Just my own knowledge. Something gets sent out, we're in an executive session. So what goes on in executive session stays in executive session. You don't talk about it, correct? So
Again, I'm going to forewarn you, the information that was just provided to you by Councilman Bourget. Now you're asking a question about what happens in executive session, and it's not on tonight's agenda.
Well,
we got,
that's what's on tonight's agenda. It says.
No, he's talking about in general in executive session.
yeah.
So if you're talking about, you can talk about this executive session if you'd like.
So this executive session, which we spoke about,
Mhm.
the counsel, the solicitor regarding a case.
Right.
That information is now no longer sacred. That goes out to a member of the public.
In light of the complaint that he made and
Okay,
the issues pertaining to what was discussed prior to executive session and after executive session as it relates to this issue with the former employee.
so
The question said there was one issue that was discussed in executive session that had nothing to do with a possible civil complaint. It all had to do with existing monies that were being held by the town. And I don't want to get any further into that but there are other issues that are now being explored at the behest of the town and the manager through the interlocal trust.
so how does
So,
that,
so the information that he has right now is now public.
what was that? Silent.
The information that Mr. Palazzo has in response to his OMA complaint is public information.
So that has nothing to do.
How is it
us-
public?
With us.
Because we had a police report, we had a trial, we had an adjudication.
All that was done before us being in executive session.
Right, but subject to you being in executive session, now the council decided to go to the interlocal trust as it related to potential litigation moving forward with no need for secrecy.
So how does that affect? Maybe I'm missing a step. How does that affect anything that's in the public with the trust, the case before the trust?
Because again, the issue that I really don't want to get into had to deal with existing monies that were under the control of the town. And whether or not the town wanted to take steps through litigation to keep those monies. And again, I don't feel comfortable getting into
No, it's
that.
fine. I understand.
I mean, that was the only real reason it was an executive session, was to whether or not the town wanted to act upon those monies.
Right.
And the town decided not to, based upon a subsequent meeting where it was going to go to the interlocal trust, and they were going to, because there was an issue about whether or not the interlocal trust was going to,
I think now that's talking way too much on.
Yeah.
well,
What was
Yeah.
actually
thanks.
said.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll throw the legal advice back.
Thank you.
Right.
Any other comment from the council? Thank you.
Discussion of town solicitor's contract.
Excuse me. No comment from myself.
You could talk in public comment.
Okay, I will stand by. On the end.
Discussion of town solicitor's contract as requested by Councilman Bourget.
All right, again, this is something that, I don't want this to turn into an attack on Mr. Williamson. This is not what this discussion's about. This is on the agenda because the last meeting, Ms. Fontaine was here in place of Mr. Williamson, and some people raised an issue with that. And so that's why we're here tonight as far as that goes. But there's some other things I want to bring up about the contract while we have it open. But going back to that last thing, under availability in his contract, it says, should the town solicitor be unable or unavailable to meet the obligation of this contract for a temporary period of time, there shall be advance notification to the town manager and town council, and an interim solicitor may be assigned. So it was brought forward by Council President Goslin and Manager Knott last week, that 2 weeks ago, that Mr. Williamson did contact them to let them know he wouldn't be here and that Ms. Fontaine would be sitting in. I see that as being okay with this contract. I don't have any issue with that at all. I know it was brought up, even can she represent in court? By my reading of this, I would say yes, as long as that the manager and the council is aware that she's going to be stepping in for Mr. Williamson, or when there's a court hearing that he cannot attend. Because sometimes attorneys get busy and they have two things going on, two different courtrooms. They can't be at two places at once. So I don't have a problem with that. Couple of questions that I do want to ask Mr. Williamson, though, is on page 1, under number 6, monthly reports on matters of litigation to the town council. I've been on the council now for 7 months. We've had a couple of, today would be maybe a 4th executive session, but it's not all encompassing. We've only had one that's all encompassing of all the litigation. If we can get something in writing, like, you know, the police chief is good weekly, gives us a nice report for the police department. The manager gives us a nicely weekly report. If you could supply that once a month, I would appreciate it, just so we have that and we can all be up to date on it. And the same thing
And I
with the
believe-
monthly reports for claims to the town council as well. Number 7.
And I believe the solicitor and the town manager are working on a monthly report in a format. And we talked about that in one of our executive sessions, what we were kind of looking for. So I
Right.
think that that is being worked on. That's
But
my
I
understanding.
still haven't received anything, and that's why.
No, we
just-
haven't.
If
You're
we're
right.
gonna cover the contract, I just want to make sure that we, you know,
Just normally, and again, if you don't want it done this way, everything goes through the manager, and then I tell the manager to provide it to you. If you want it directly from me, I will do that.
okay.
Well, I think you should come up with the format, work with the manager to come up with a format.
I
which-
really don't care how we get it, just, you know,
Sure.
something. I really, to me, it doesn't matter either way.
Will this be a monthly report similar to what we get from the manager, or will it be just a monthly report?
You can get,
executive session?
you can get a synopsis on each case, and if you see no action, there was no action that month on that particular case.
Okay, but if something comes up where it's.
Sure.
Then we'll go to executive session.
Kind of like what's on, kind of what's on our executive session tonight.
I'm
These
not
two
going to
cases.
get really in depth as to
No.
what's in the synopsis, but
No.
you need, you know, for example, if a case gets dismissed, you know about it, or if it's down for motion for summary judgment, I'll let you know. But sometimes there's lapses between having a hearing on a motion for summary judgment and then getting the decision. Sometimes there's not.
The main reason, like, is when I got on the council, I had no idea of majority of the lawsuits that were going on. And I ended up getting a phone call from a person telling me that she's suing the town and, you know, wondering what's going on. And I'm like, I don't have a clue, you know, and I hate being in a situation where I should know something and I don't, you know, because it kind of sets me back and I don't like to be set back like that.
I understood, but if that happened, and again, I don't want to get into who that person is, you can always contact me directly to find out, because sometimes that happens and there is no lawsuit, because it might be a claim or it might be something else.
And that's why if we had the monthly claim report and the monthly lawsuit report, I would have that knowledge already at the forefront of my mind. And I could just answer the question on the phone if I can. And my last thing is the malpractice insurance. It says you provide proof of such insurance. I'm confident you have it, but I think it should be something that's like an annual thing, just to,
It is through my malpractice carrier, I get it on an annual basis.
I get that, but to show proof to the town that you have it is what I'm saying. So
Sure.
I don't know, maybe you do that on an annual basis now. I've only been on for 7 months, not a year, so I can't say definitively that you don't send it out on an annual basis. So that's my issues that I wanted to bring up with this. The main one being, again, it was brought up at the last council meeting of Ms. Fontaine being here in your stead, and whether or not it's contractually allowed.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Thank you.
Discussion pertaining to Supreme Court opinion case number 2019-313 and case number 2019-442. Both are appeals from Superior Court. Case number 2017-1008 Reed's Landscape Construction, Inc. versus the Town of West Warwick and 4N Properties LLC.
I put this on the agenda. I'd like to read something first. I had previously agreed at a council meeting late last summer to Mr. John Reed, who continued to address us in public comment, to send an email regarding concerns that he had to me. And I would forward that email to the clerk to place on the council agenda. So I recently received an email from Mr. Reed last week, and I did just that. After spending the last few days further reviewing the agenda, I had questions regarding the content of that material, case numbers, legal documents. I'm not an attorney. I don't want to be one. I'm an elected town official. So I spoke with our town solicitor. I had questions on him regarding the legal portion of it. The town's legal counsel. He replied that this is not the venue for this type of discussion, and we are not a court. And the second part of this is more for the planning board than the town council. I do not, my only intention here to place this, any item on the agenda regarding this matter was to attempt to bring a closure to a long fiery situation for both the Reed family and the West Warwick Town Council. My intent was so that we could move forward. We all live in the town, and I guess no good deed goes unpunished. So I apologize if there's any misconception about putting this on the agenda, or if this is the right or wrong venue. So that's all I have.
Well, I just want to clarify a few things. I gave each and every one of you guys Title 45, 15, 16. You've also received an email from one of the parties that was named on our agenda item. They've made it very clear on their intention. Also, I just want to point out, the town of West Warwick Town Council neither has the legal authority nor jurisdiction to consider any aspect, facts, or evidence of a case that no longer exists. That's the first thing. Second thing is Reed's Landscape Construction voluntarily dismissed their claim against the town of West Warwick with prejudice on their own volition. And third, when the town is voluntarily dismissed, it's kind of a win for the town, correct? And why would we want to re-litigate this case in errors and omissions, which is on the agenda? And I'm wanting the council now that you could open the town. The Reeds can be opened up to a lawsuit from individuals at this point. So I'm wanting the town council that if you take this matter on tonight, that you're opening yourself up. And if you want to read Title 45, I'd be more than happy to. But I'm not going to be part of this conversation if this gets moved forward. I will step away and recuse myself.
Well, I am going to make some comments on this because as we know, at the end of September, I finally got those two gigantic binders. I've gone through them twice. There's a large box upstairs that I've gone through, and there's a lot of things within those documents that shows that the town definitely made some mistakes. And when I first started this, I said I wanted to do it because everybody makes mistakes. And how can we make our town better? Why should the citizens have to pay to be sued when we can just correct things? And why can't things be stopped before we get to a lawsuit? Now, I agree, this is not a court of law up here, but we are the elected officials. And we can't say, oh, go to the planning board, who we appointed. They're going to sit there and say, what are we going to do? Okay. Just like the legislature has a House Oversight Committee, we need an oversight committee because mistakes happen. And it's our job as the elected officials to do this. So, and again, I get frustrated. I get so frustrated because I can't even tell you, I wish I would have logged the hours that I spent going through all this stuff. And part of the reason why it's taken so long is because I don't know where to go with the stuff that I found. I really don't know. I'm going to give this to each member of the council. I cannot share it with the public because it is labeled confidential. But when you see something like this, it makes me wonder, why was he even in the lawsuit to begin with? And if you go down to under the 1, 2, 3 and read the next few lines under that, you'll see what I mean. It's clear what that says. And it was clear from the Superior Court judge's decision and the Supreme Court judge's decision that that's a clear statement. So we should never have ever been involved with this to begin with. My problem is, where do we go from here? Because I have no confidence in anybody in this state. I'm not gonna mention anybody's names or anything like that, so hopefully, because this is nothing personal against anybody. I just printed it right before I left the screen, so. With the Factory Street Playground. Mr. Williamson did a report, put out on the town's website. There it is. And in his report,
Mr.
Page-
Boyd,
I was gonna say, we're going
On
on,
the-
that's
on the
definitely off the
Definitely not on
agenda.
the agenda tonight. so I mean,
Factory Street Playground.
You'd be jeopardizing an open meetings violation on that particular issue. It's not on the agenda.
see, and this is where I get aggravated, and that's my whole point. Because when you find stuff that's wrong, you don't have any recourse to make it right. You call the Attorney General's office, what do they tell you? Sorry, we can't help you because it might come before us. So it leaves us nowhere else to go with anything. Our whole system is screwed up, and that's why nothing gets fixed. Because here we are, once again, Factory Street, big debacle. Who gets punished for it? I can't even talk about who got punished for it. Not the right people who screwed up, This whole thing with the Reeds cost them, I don't remember how much he said, cost the taxpayers 40 to 80,000, depending on who you talk to. It should never have happened. But where do you go to try and get anything rectified? You can't. You call the Attorney General's office, you get nothing. You submit them stuff to where they admit they violated the law and you get nothing. So I am going to speak as far as this goes because I am tired of it. This is why our state is so screwed up. This is why our town is so screwed up, because when you try and fix something, all you get told is, whoa, hey, not in the agenda. You can't talk about that. Oh, hey, you can't go, you can't mention this person's name because Title 45 says they're going to sue you. No matter what you try and do to make things better in this freaking town, gets thrown back in your face and you get treated like you're the pariah when you're the one trying to fix things. So that's what I have to say on this, because apparently no other conversation is going to be allowed on it. Otherwise, people will get up and walk away. Sick of it.
You want to walk away, and I'm not asking any questions. There's no questions in here. Okay, I don't expect you to make any decisions. This is what you asked me to do on either the 15th or the 5th of August. Present you with some documents and you review them. I have no intentions for nobody to answer any questions.
Mr. Mayor, this matter has not been moved yet, so it's still,
It's discussion.
it's
There's no
still
move.
there.
There's no movement. It's just
Well, I'm
discussion.
you got to move it if I can discuss it. But
No,
I mean,
No, it's
No,
discussion.
it's discussion.
There's
We can
no,
allow you.
it's an agenda item.
it's not,
Yes.
it's not a resolution. So it's a discussion, so we don't have to approve
It's okay to go.
discussion.
So don't worry, nobody's going to have to answer any questions. When Mr. Bourget gets done doing whatever he's doing, then the questions come out. I'm just giving you the background and the basic first documents that you asked me for. So why can't I present them?
Give them to us.
Just sit there and be amused.
Thanks, John.
You didn't want to read the last time, so we'll leave you out.
Thank you. Make you a copy. Any other comment from the council on this matter? Mr. Reed's given us his documentation. Probably not going to read it all here tonight, so.
Shouldn't take long.
Any other comment from the council? Any other comment from Mr. Reed? Thank you, Mr. Reed.
are we gonna read that email into the record as he requested, or we're just gonna, or not?
So it should be read into the record. I agree with you.
Okay.
Excuse me,
I'll read it if
Oh,
you
wait a
don't
minute,
want
wait a
to.
minute. Maybe John's not done. I'm sorry.
can I present this to you?
Oh, sure.
Oh, I wasn't looking for a presentation. I was looking to read it later on.
Even if we we're gonna allow that, I think the email should be read first anyway.
Just so everyone hears the email.
Council President Goslin and Town Council members, it has come to my attention that the West Warwick Town Council has docketed an agenda item under new business J04 for for public discussion at its March 1st, 2022 that identifies me specifically by name. As you are aware, the West Warwick Town Council is a public body and is required to comply with all federal, state, and local statutes, regulations, and laws in the conduct of its business. This includes the requirement that any public discussion involving an employee, a person, a business, or other entity requires West Warwick Town Council to serve formal notice to all affected parties. The intent of this correspondence is to serve notice to the West Warwick Town Council that I am no longer an employee and/or a public official of the town of West Warwick. Therefore, the West Warwick Town Council has no right, interest, or authority to discuss me, a private individual, in a formal public forum. The West Warwick Town Council should be aware that the docketed subject matter will have the effect of the Town Council facilitating the public disclosure of false, fabricated, and misleading information about me, resulting in defamation and invasion of my privacy by presenting information about me in a false light. Further, I was not properly notified by the West Warwick Town Council that it intends to discuss me personally in a public forum. This failure of notice by the West Warwick Town Council constitutes a violation of my due process and rights as an individual and is also in violation of the Rhode Island Open Meetings Law. As a result, I formally object to this action and demand that this item be removed from the Town Council agenda. As you are aware, while I was employed by the town, there were numerous occasions when the West Warwick Town Council entertained and participated in numerous public discussions during formal town council meetings that included lies, innuendos, falsehoods, and slander about me. These discussions were not docketed as agenda items, and I was not provided advance notice that these discussions would be taking place. As a result, these discussions also violated my due process rights as an employee at the time and were clearly in violation of the Rhode Island Open Meetings Law. Now that I am no longer an employee and/or a public official of the town, I hereby putting the West Warwick Town Council on notice, along with any other person, party, entity, or organization who may not want to participate in a public discussion about me, a private individual, that I intend to take formal legal action to the fullest extent that the law allows against any town official, public body, private person, business principal, and businesses, both professionally and personally, for any and all slanderous statements, misstatements, lies, innuendos, falsehoods, fabrication about me during this and any other future West Warwick Town Council meeting. Finally, I respectfully request that the letter be formally read into record on the West Warwick Town Council meeting, March 1st, 2022, prior to open discussion of new business agenda J4. Respectfully, Mark Carullo and CC Rhode Island Attorney General.
I have a copy of that.
Boy, that was on.
Whether this is for Mr. Williamson or for the council, documents that are signed by an ex or still employed employee, is that still legal to present their document?
Not answering your questions, Mr. Reed.
Okay. Well, last I knew, any legal document or any public record, which that person's documents would be public record, because that's how I get them. I guess it is what it is. There's no defamation there. Okay. The man's name is not even mentioned in what I presented to you. So, you know, if he wants to, he can do whatever he wants to do. God bless him. As far as this council goes, okay, there was a situation, and forget Reed's Landscaping and Noon's Lane. We're talking about the procedure and how we got there. As I've said before, my case is over with. Okay, I have no case with you. I have no case with Noon's. This is, let's see what happened, how we got here. And just let me stop for a minute. I understand what Mr. Licciardi is and that he put this on here for me. Just for the record, from the very first time I had Mr. Messier come to my house, he had no interest or no clue of what I was talking about. So he is my councilman, but I had to go to an outside councilman to do this, where he stuck his neck out. I appreciate that, but he only did it because I don't have a councilman. So I just want to clarify that. As far as what's in these documents, these are all documents that came from this town hall or the Supreme Court. You are layman, okay? I'm not a professional, but I live this. This is just to bring you to what Mr. Goslin asked me to do, is show me the documents and let us review them. That's all this is, with some questions that you should take notes yourself. All right? If you go to the very first page, there's not a lot of reading at the very bottom. This is zoning. Okay? Under C, I highlighted irregular or odd-shaped lots such as flag lots or hockey stick lots. Isolated from frontage shall not be permitted. I just don't want you to remember that. Shall not be permitted. Hockey stick lots. Okay? Then you go to the next page. This is an excerpt from the Rhode Island State Supreme Court. Okay? You want me to read it or you want to read it to yourselves? I think the public should hear it.
Go ahead.
Okay? This is just another excerpt. Okay? On April 26th, on the April 2016 administrative plan did not change Lot C's boundary lines or area, but it did modify Lot D boundary line such that it narrowed Noon's Lane by 10 feet, thus adding a strip of land 10 feet wide for Lot D, similar to a hockey stick. Now, I didn't know nothing about hockey sticks, but the Supreme Court must have, because the judge put it in there. Hockey stick configuration. Significantly, however, Noon's Lane is again referred as a right-of-way on the April 2016 administrative subdivision, is again labeled as a 40-foot wide egress easement. Okay, this is just things for you to remember when the questions come up. The next thing are two plans. One you're going to look at, the first is a minor subdivision. Okay, the only thing that's highlighted there is if you look in the bottom corner, it's a street index. Okay, you have that one?
No.
You don't have the plans in yours?
Sorry, believe me, I'm very familiar with it all.
I'm sure you are. Okay, in the center, you're going to see a blue outline.
Yeah.
Followed by a yellow outline that shows Noon's Lane. Okay, you're not going to be able to depict the verbiage on that. The next one is an administrative subdivision plan. Okay, same thing. Right-hand corner at the bottom, street index, no mentioning Noon's Lane. Outline of Lot C, which is my property. The yellow line adjacent to it is the description of the lot. And then on the far left corner at the bottom is what's called a detail in the plan. This plan is bringing you to look at that specific detail. If you look at that, okay, it says Noon's Lane, right of way. Now, these are town documents, okay, not mine. And at the bottom, it was stamped and signed by Mr. Carullo. He was our planner. So I don't think he just faded off into the sunset and we can't discuss him anymore. As long as I don't insult him. But what his name's on, I mean, it is. All right, now we're gonna go to the next page is the minutes. Planning board minutes for February 1st, 2016. You look at item 2, public meeting. It's for 4M Properties LLC. And the location is 55 Industrial Lane, also known as Noon's Lane. Open that, you're going to go to the body of the minutes. Just looked at the highlighted portions. You're going to see Lot C is the Noon's Lane Company office. Noon's Lane is a right-of-way. This was approved. Motion to approve unanimously, and it was read into the record again by Mr. Carullo. So at this point in time, It seems like the town was more than aware that Noon's Lane was something. Then we're gonna go into a warranty deed, my warranty deed. This was referred to by the Supreme Court. Okay? The highlighted areas is where in my deed, it shows that Noon's Lane is a boundary. Okay? I won't go through the verbiage. I'm sure you've all read deeds, but in 3 places on this deed is my boundary line. This was recorded at the town hall. It's a legal document. Now, if you go back to the last page, this is another excerpt from the Supreme Court. Here the record reflects that Noon's Lane was platted since at least 2007. Councilman, I didn't even begin to purchase this thing till late 2015. But yet there are documents that say nobody knew into 2018 what Noon's Lane even was. You've all seen them. I've given you documents before, and that's why I specifically gave you packages tonight. I said before, okay, I never want to say that you weren't informed. I informed you for years. Okay, and then we took it as far as the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court verified everything I've told this council for years. All right, let's go back. It is well settled that when a plat is referred to in a deed, meaning that plan, okay, that's a plat plan, for the description of the premises intended to be conveyed, it becomes, for this purpose, part of the deed. So whatever that plan says, okay, roadways, utilities, becomes part of the deed, according to the Supreme Court. So I don't need an attorney to tell me this, because the Supreme Court turned me, and I think I'm very able to read, and I do have some relative comprehension. Let's go down to the bottom. On the January 5th plan, Noon's Lane is depicted as a 40-foot laneway. It abuts Lot C, just like I said from my deed, okay? And the meets and bounds description of the deed confirms that Lot C abuts Noon's Lane, not a strip of Lot D. Lot C does not abut a wall of boulders. Again, Noon's Lane is also listed in the street index on the January 5th plan, and every plan filed, including April 2016 administrative subdivision. Okay, now let's just a couple of questions, and I'm not looking for the answers, but these are the questions for you to figure out. Okay, the planning board approved. Well, let's start with one thing, which I haven't even bothered to bring to you. That property has had DEM issues since 2007 and is still under what they call a major category in 2018, 19, and 20. Okay, the town's aware of it, nothing. But what I want to know was, and you should ask, okay, is how did the town even approve to do a subdivision on a piece of property with pre-existing DEM violations? I know how they did it. They didn't bother to look. But yet there was controversy for this thing from 2007. But I know how that happened. But you need, going back to, you can't change the past. But you people have the chance to change the future. And there's more of these out there, and they're sitting on my desk, I hate to tell you, and I haven't brought them to you yet. You got a whole bunch of these that happen. So let me get back to where I was, all right? So it got approved with DEM violations. Secondly of all, like I read to you, a hockey stick configuration, not supposed to have it according to zoning, but yet we have one, and the Supreme Court confirmed it. Another thing in the zoning, okay? A minor subdivision is supposed to be for residential purposes. It states right under there, no commercial subdivision will be minor. It's a major subdivision. This was all approved as a minor subdivision, going totally against your own rules in zoning. And if none of this stuff that I'm bringing up to you concerns you, I mean, these are not John Reed's facts. These are your own facts that I happen to have to go dig up because nobody wanted to do their job. This isn't my job, counsel. This is your job. You have a fiduciary duty when something is brought to you that has fidelity to take some kind of action. But this council in the past, it's getting better. I'll admit it's getting better. They just wait until you run out of steam. I'm not running out of steam till you put me in the ground. Okay? You're just gonna make me have more steam. I want to work with you people. This thing that Mr. Licciardi read and all, what are we trying to cover it up again? You have to act on this. You have a fiduciary duty. There's laws broken, there's zoning broken. Nobody, and all these people would like to know why. All the people that watch this would like to know why. You know what the most embarrassing thing? Okay, I don't like being in the limelight at all. I've been on the search 66 years. Until the last 5 years, I've been on the ground. People didn't even know I exist. Okay, because of this, I become famous. Beautiful. I work from one end of the state to the other. It just happened to me today again. Oh, you're the guy on TV with the council. Oh, we saw all that. What kind of town do you live in? Are they going to correct anything? Are you going to sue them? No, I'm not going to sue them. And one of the reasons I'm going to tell you now, because it's probably going to be asked, and half of you think I'm nuts. I dropped the suit against the state, the town, for 2 reasons. Number one, I was getting bombarded with foolish papers, which he's read, and I'm sure he's going to talk about. Okay, so we were just stretching his bill as far as we could go. Because maybe I'll go broke and I'll have to forfeit. That didn't happen. Secondly of all, we knew 99.5% sure, because like I told you, I had a 14-year-old look at this stuff and she came up with the same answers as the Supreme Court. And I mean, that's kind of ridiculous that a 14-year-old came up with answers that you people can't come up with. And you had the right, and your duty was to ask questions as responsible people of some kind of intelligence to say, whoa, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. You bothered to do it. And this is why you look foolish. There's a lot of things that could be wrong. I can say a lot of things that are probably wrong. You have the obligation to go say, hey, Mr. Reed, what you're talking about, hockey sticks over here? No, that doesn't mean nothing. Wait a minute, in all this paperwork, News Lane doesn't exist. It's a dirt road. The town's never formally identified it for X amount. Wait a minute, I just read you a few documents that I've already given to you in the past that identifies News Lane. I didn't identify it, the town did. So how can you sit there with a document in front of you that contradicts what your attorney wants you to do? Okay, and my dealings with this is, he's your attorney, not mine. You got to find out the answers, but you have to find out the answers for us because we pay the bill.
But that's where the problem comes in, Mr. Reed. That's what I was expressing earlier, is there's no forum to bring it forward. Because, hold on, let me finish, okay? Because if I try and do something like tonight was tried to be done in an open session, we get outside people saying, if you talk about me, I'm going to sue you. If we try and do an executive session, we have people like you and Mr. Palazzo that says, we're going to file a complaint because you're talking about us in an executive session.
I just say something.
Let me finish, please. So I'm trying to figure out what forum that we can do this in where we're legal and we can fix these problems. Because I agree with you. No taxpayer of any community should have to go through what your family went through for this land deal.
What about these people that paid the bill?
That's my next point. No citizen should have to go through this, but the taxpayers also shouldn't have to pay for this.
Exactly.
When Superior Court Justice, Supreme Court Justice both say, why are we here? Look at this, it's obvious. And
Shouldn't that have been obvious from the get-go?
it was obvious from the get-go, and one of the document I just handed to everybody shows that it was obvious from the get-go.
And my argument is,
And that's why I'm upset, because I can't bring it forward to anybody, because now I have a confidential document. Where can I even bring that? Who can I share this with
that document,
legally?
that document to me means nothing.
No, it would mean something to you if you knew what it said.
Oh, I don't know
Okay.
about that one.
But I'm just saying, So my dilemma is, with everything I've already done for this, I don't have a cool way to go. If I go to the Attorney General's office, they don't do anything. They've proven me that with the other case that I tried to bring up and the example I was trying to give, that I can't talk about because, again, violation of open meeting laws. Everything's made to work against putting light on the truth. And that's the problem that I have.
The roadblocks, Mr. Boget.
The law is, the
Of this
law is.
town.
Oh, the state law.
No, state law,
State here.
it's not, it's,
He's
it's,
talking about the
it's,
state.
the state laws and, the state laws mainly are what's hampering this whole thing from already being done. Because, like I said, by trying to do an executive session, as we tried to do a few months ago, you guys get upset because you want to be part of it. But there's confidential stuff that you can't hear, so that's why we have to do an executive session. But we can't do an executive session because,
That's understandable.
but then we try and do an open session and just have a generic talk. And then we get an email saying that if you talk about me, then I'm gonna sue you. And again, the taxpayers pay again.
And I have the right to my opinion.
I'm not saying you don't have a right to your opinion. I'm just saying that this is the problem that we're running into to fix not only your situation, but probably some of the other ones you have on your desk as well.
Okay, I think I never went to law school, but you might think I was a friggin' lawyer. My presumption of what just happened here tonight is somebody right here, okay, this is my personal opinion, saw this was coming up, got a hold of Mr. Carullo, initiated this. This is mine. I can speak to you because you've seen the documents. You know what Mr. Carullo did. Okay, don't comment. Okay,
I will make a comment. I don't think Mr. Carullo did anything wrong intentionally.
no, not intentionally. You
I
and
will
I
say
agree on
that.
that 100%.
Mr. Carullo is a loss to this town. I was sad to see him go. I wish he was still here. I really do.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you.
It's called bad advice.
Exactly. We're on the same page, okay? That's gonna come up when you bring it up. Because when I bring it up, I'm making a tax. All this stuff is documented. It's not wild characteristics of attacks on anybody. These are facts that happen, okay? Mr. Carullo, I haven't filed this yet, so I don't know if he wants me to file it on him. I'll be glad to. But I've left him alone for the reasons we just talked about. Mark Carullo is not a bad guy,
Not at all.
okay? And I don't think he should be hung up to dry for advice that he got. And that's my personal opinion. There's only one person that can prove it, is Mr. Carullo. And the only way that Mr. Carullo would prove it, if we had to have him testify. I don't want to go there. So Mr. Carullo, and I'm sure he's listening, he better cool his jets because the statute of limitations hasn't gone away. That's all I'm asking you people to do, is do what you should have done from day one. And one of your questions is gonna come out. Well, what were we supposed to do? You sued me. Yeah, I sued you because I went to this, and when I say counsel, you weren't here, and you had some involvement. It was black and white then. Nobody asked the question and said, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Noon's Link, the dirt road. It's abandoned. How can it be abandoned? It's right here. A 14-year-old child, let me bring that up again, notified it. Why don't you people go to another source and say, is this legitimate? Because you didn't belong in there. You know what your position should have been? Mr. Reed, this is a private matter, which you did say, but you contradicted it all differently. This is a private matter. We agreed that these are the documents that were presented. These are the documents that were recorded. And if you need them, subpoena them, we'll be glad to bring you in. Town would have never got sued. He would have never got his money. I would have never had to pay that much money. But let's listen to this one. If foreign properties didn't have the town saying that it was abandoned and don't know this, he had no legs to stand on either. So he was able to go through with his because he was backed up by the town, who was totally wrong. How do you figure that one out? And these people deserve to get their money back. That's what I'm saying. This town council has remedies to get your money back for us. You sit up there as individuals, and I'm not, this is just my opinion, okay? I might think that way. It's not your money. Well, it is, because they elect you to spend it. It's our money. You have a fiduciary duty to take care of the people. You have an oath. And if I'm totally wrong, have them write something up, send it to me. I've vented this thing to about 50 people. Professionals, non-professionals, acquaintances, friends, and strangers. I think it was about 50. The consensus was the same. So when you can bat 1,000 on a consensus with strangers, I think I got nothing to worry about being right or wrong. So I'm asking this council one more time, okay? On the record, you all have the information except for one, okay? It's the facts. Make it right. Make it right for these people, make it right for the town. And the next time you're in the media, because I think they're watching, okay? You might even say you did the right thing. They finally got together and did the right thing. Whatever your decision does, doesn't help me, remember that. So whatever any of you people think of me, I could care less. Your decision is not going to benefit or hurt me. You're going to benefit these people going forward. Sometimes, you know, the old saying, a new broom sweeps clean. You might want to think about that.
David, may I be heard as the attorney for the planning board?
Go ahead, Al.
Well, first, at one point that Mr. Reed made regarding the minor lot, the subdivision, the residential subdivision, he commented that a minor lot subdivision was for residential only, and that our regulations state that non-residential subdivisions are considered major subdivisions. That is correct. However, the problem is that our regulations are subservient to the state law. The state law in 2013 changed that definition. It deleted all non-residential subdivisions shall be considered as major subdivisions. So even though our regulations did not make the change by state law, that provision was eliminated. So after 2013, all subdivisions of 5 lots or less, residential or non-residential, became minor subdivisions. So that was not an error on the top part of the planning board or the town planner. As far as this distinction about the existence of Noon's Lane, if you go back to Mr. Reed mentioned 2007 and 2007, a plan was recorded showing Noon's Lane. In 2012, a plan was recorded showing Noon's Lane. In 2016, the minor subdivision showing Noon's Lane. Every document that has ever been recorded shows Noon's Lane. There has never been any question that Noon's Lane does not exist. I think the problem lies in, and I'm making an assumption that I may be incorrect, that Mr. Reed is taking a position that Noon's Lane is a public way. It is not. Every document that has been recorded, and every time the Supreme Court mentions the words Noon's Lane, they refer to it as a right of way. A right of way is an agreement between two parties. The person owning the right of way is the subservient party, and the person with the use of the right of way is the dominant party. It is strictly between the two parties. The town has absolutely nothing to do with a right of way. When the administrative subdivision reduced the size of Noon's Lane and created this hockey stick. Number one, it created it on land not owned by Mr. Reed, but on the owner of the property. And that decrease in the size of Noon's Lane had absolutely nothing to do with Mr. Reed's rights. Mr. Reed had a contractual right with 4N from the very beginning. The Supreme Court mentions the purchase and sale agreement between Noon's Lane and RLC. And in it, it states that that purchase agreement was subject to a subdivision by the town. The subdivision was created, and in the Supreme Court, it comments that that subdivision included Noon's Lane, which had been recorded in 2007 and in 2012. In Mr. Reed's deed, it refers to there were two documents. One got recorded, one did not, but they both showed the same Noon's Lane at 40 feet. Unfortunately, Mr. Reed's deed made reference to the one that didn't get recorded, the January 5th, as opposed to the January 20th. But both of those showed a 40-foot right-of-way to which Mr. Reed had rights from day one. When 4N went ahead and put boulders or whatever it did on that portion of land, that had nothing to do with the town. The town had created a right-of-way 40 feet wide to which Mr. Reed contractually had the right to use. So from day one, the day that Mr. Reed entered into that purchase and sales agreement to today, Mr. Reed had a contractual agreement with 4N that he had the right to use a private right of way. It existed then, it existed now. The town has never in any way indicated that Mr. Reed did not have the right to use that property. It is a private right of way between two parties, and the town is not involved in it.
Any other questions or comment from the council?
If those words would have been said in 2017, we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation tonight.
Mark, I will say that I don't remember when it was, but a long time ago at a council meeting, and it was Mr. Reed who reminded me of this. I stood before the council and said, this is a private matter.
Yes, you did.
Yes, it is a private matter. And again, we can, when you come back up to Rhode Island, Al, I want to have a conversation with you if that's all right.
Anytime you want.
Thank you.
Any other comment from the council? All set, Mr. Reed? Thank you.
Upcoming appointments. Sewer Use Board of Review, appointment to fill a vacancy as an alternate member with a term to expire October 2024. Sewer Use Board of Review, appointment to fill a vacancy as a regular member with a term to expire 2023. Board of Assessment and Review, appointment or reappointment as a regular member with term to expire March 2025. Board of Canvassers, appointment or reappointment as a regular member with term to expire March 2028. West Warwick Public Library of Trustees, 3 appointments or reappointments as a regular member with terms to expire February 2025. And Planning Board, appointment to fill alternate member vacancy with term to expire July 2025.
So just to go back, now that these have been posted and read, what will you do?
We're going to post this on the website tomorrow.
Okay,
We're going to post it on the bulletin board outside.
correct?
And then at the next, if someone, they'll stay on the agenda if they're vacant. If someone applies next agenda, they would at that point be eligible because it would be more than 10 days.
So once 10 days goes by, we can appoint, so it can be 14 days from now, which is much, much better than it had been. So thank you for doing that work.
Yeah, no, and
Thanks,
thank
Al.
you to Al. I
Thanks,
appreciate
Al.
all his
Yeah,
help
but-
on that.
Sarah mentioned posting in the town hall. It goes on the website for 10 days.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Will this include the two open positions that we have through the resignation?
Yes.
No, it should be.
Yeah, now
added.
that you guys have accepted the resignation, those will also be added and advertised
As of today or
as of today.
Okay.
Yep, so they will be posted tomorrow with the rest of them.
So, but they're not listed as an upcoming appointment, so would they have to do that? That's are we in between?
I think Al's resolution, and Al, you should probably weigh on this better than me, but I think your resolution makes
When you are
provision
notified,
for resignations.
yes, when you are notified in of a vacancy, within 1 week after that, the clerk notifies the council and it goes on your agenda for the next council meeting. When you receive that notice, it'll go on your agenda at your next council meeting. That's the first posting. It then goes on the website
For the
And
10
the
days. So,
10 days. And then at the following council meeting, you can make the appointment.
yeah, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So I have one question on upcoming appointments. Ever since I've been on the council, the sewer use board of review has been difficult. With 3 members, it's been difficult to fill. I know we've had people waiting for about well over a year to hear the review. So not to be negative, but be realistic. Nobody's banging on the door to be on this board. So if we do not have a full board, is there any way that that the sewer commission could act as the sewer board of review? So people don't have to wait months and months to hear their case.
Well, you'd have to look at the original legal authority that created it.
I'm gonna stop you and you because we're talking about appointing a position, but you want to appoint, if you want to put it on the next agenda, appointing a sewer use commission or the representatives of the council and being able to do that, I would probably put that on the next agenda.
So it would have to be an agenda item.
Put it on the sewer subcommittee first.
I'm not a sewer sub.
Well, sewer subcommittee could post this and also discuss it and have a plan and make a recommendation to the sewer commission.
Okay.
Public comment.
Alan Palazzo, 5 Robin Lane, West Warwick. With regard to the OMA complaint, okay, I've been at these meetings for a long time. I've been here when we've read admonitions from the Attorney General's office saying, oh, it needs to be specific. You have to have it there, or you can't discuss it, where you guys have actually tabled most of an agenda and we go on and on. So it surprised me on the 18th of January when we had an executive session item that said potential litigation. That's it. The public had no clue as to what would be covered. So on Friday, 21 January, I filed a complaint with the Attorney General's office. They turned it around, and on Monday, they tasked the town to answer the complaint. Okay, I had expected an answer approximately the 4th of February, because you had 10 business days to do it. I cut you some slack. The town actually did respond on 7 February to the Attorney General's office. They did not address me on it. I was not copied on that answer. Interestingly enough, and as a segue into that second item about who is the town solicitor, that response to the Attorney General's tasking was from Tara Fontaine. Okay, it wasn't from Mr. Williamson, although he was CC'd on that. I waited until that Friday. and submitted a follow-up to the Attorney General's office saying, hey, I gave them extra time. Still nothing. That went out about noon. Mr. Adam Roach, an Assistant Attorney General, sent out a tasker at 17:53 on that Friday saying, comply. Mr. Williamson himself responded a little over a half an hour later and sent me a copy, CC, the Attorney General's office, of what you have in front of you, what I've sent to you, okay? The Attorney General's office turned around and said, hey, this looks like it's something that should be for in camera. So either fix it, or actually before they had, he responded, or, you know, make it usable. And as a result, you have what you have, okay? Now, potential litigation. The document that I received was this long convoluted explanation of what went on during that executive session, okay? And from my perspective, you were offered lots of reasons why it had to be in executive session to avoid giving away a possible suit, items like that. I don't know how you would look at it. I looked at it as what this council was doing, and this is strictly my opinion. You were trying to hide from the public the fact that once again, West Warwick had lost the case. Just like with the Reeds, now you lost this one. And I'm not going to mention any names. I mean, we're going to recover money. To me, I go back with this town, and I know you guys have insurance to cover things. But all of a sudden, we have all these items. And if you look at the items listed in that response, many of the cases cited dealt with actual litigation, not potential litigation. I'm not a lawyer, but I understand the difference. Okay. And that bothered me tremendously. I've got it. I turned it around. I submitted it back to Mr. Roach and said, hey, this doesn't answer the mail. So would you please make sure it gets done? I haven't heard back yet. I'm expecting it, but I've pointed out before, over and over and over again, in the Attorney General's Guide to Access to Public Records and Open Meetings, the town of West Warwick is listed and not in a favorable light. I've mentioned it before. Mr. Reed did it tonight. As a taxpayer, I am tired of paying for this type of legal representation. You have a duty to the taxpayers of this town, of this community, to ensure that our taxes are spent with caution, not just thrown out the window. We don't have a printing press. A lot of people in town are struggling to pay taxes. You have to do the right thing. And it has been mentioned before by Mr. Reed. Well, Mr. Reed alluded to it, that your silence implies consent. It's also been stated that greater people than I, the only thing necessary for evil to succeed is for good men to remain silent. You have a choice to make. You can do the right thing for the citizens of this town, to put in place mechanics so you can fix things. You don't have to have Mr. Reed going through what he did. You don't have to have other people going through this again and again and again. So, if you don't, as I said before, I will continue to stand before you, make my points, so it is on the record and people can see it. Okay. I may have had my disagreements with Mr. Giroux, But the best thing he ever did was ensure that we move forward with installing cameras and we have documentation as to what goes on at these meetings. So the taxpayers can see people playing on their phones when, residents are trying to address this council, avoiding things. So,
Me too. That's what I did. Pull up an email.
That's what I've
say
noticed.
again?
I was
I
pulling
was
up your
looking at
email to
something
look
you
at
sent
something.
us, so that's what I was doing on my phone, so.
No. So there you go. I'll leave it at that. The segue, I raised the issue of exactly who is the town solicitor. You have the contracts. One said Williamson Law. The current one says Timothy Williams Esquire. As a matter of law, two entirely different entities, and he can offer all the opinions he wants. The contract is specific, and you decide what you're going to do. And Mrs. Williamson, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Alan.
Any other public comment?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tom Oates, 6 Colonial Way. I asked this question a long time ago. I wonder what the response is. How come the solicitor's contract in West Warwick is not put out to bid? Not going to answer the question.
Pleasure of the council.
Okay, I do. Do you recall the answer I got when I asked this question a couple of years ago? He's my solicitor and I'm happy and I'm not putting it out to bid.
I'm one vote, Mr. Oates.
Right. Well, I did ask that and I know you're one vote, but it was shot down before it got a chance for any of the other counselors to decide whether it should be put out to bid. So just something for thought. Every other community in the state puts their solicitor out to bid on an annual basis, I believe. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
One last item with regard to your agenda and what happened tonight. The reading of that email is not on the agenda. And you have a town solicitor here allegedly to warn you when you're acting out where you shouldn't be. I did not hear an objection to be quiet. So be forewarned, tomorrow I'll be at my typewriter to the AG again.
Any other public comment?
Question for the solicitor. And if he chooses not to answer, he chooses not to answer, but that scenario, the letter itself mentions J4,
Item J4.
item J4,
And his
that
name's
was read.
on item J4.
Right, his name's on item J4. I'm so sick and tired of, oh, it's not there. I mean, if we have to worry about every specific word having to be on the agenda, we're gonna go through a lot of paper. Is the agenda item supposed to be specific to every single topic you're gonna talk about under every,
So Mark,
Topic.
let me be straightforward with everybody and everybody in this crowd.
I'm just so frustrated with
Wait a
all
minute,
this.
I've heard tonight. Okay, the bills, our taxpayers' money, so on and so forth, right? When you file that OMA, who represents us and it becomes a legal case? Now it's there's $125 an hour or whatever it is on the contract, okay?
150.
So who gets that? Okay, and the funny thing is, and I want to point this out, and I think everybody thinks when we were in executive session that this solicitor represented us in that case, which he didn't. Okay, that's the police department side. So again, I just want to point those things out. Everybody thinks that we're paying a solicitor for everything. Every time somebody files an Open Meetings Act, there's only one person that represents us. So you're just helping the solicitor's office make money and hurting the taxpayers at the end. So
But
over somebody who wanted to read something, somebody told us they're on the agenda and would like us to read that into the, and I wasn't reading it in. You handed it to me and asked me to read it in. So I read it in.
And again, it's like, I just would like that answer. If you can't answer tonight or don't want to answer tonight, you want to put it out in an email later. I mean, I really don't care. I just want us to do the things the right way. And if we have to put, you know, because we only get that email yesterday, I think you said, yeah, yesterday. You sent it yesterday. It's not agenda time. So we're going to put it on the next agenda in order to read what happened on the last agenda. I mean, I don't really know which way we're supposed to be going with all this stuff. I wanted to read something.
I'll respond to the council tomorrow with my thoughts on this, but again, the Open Meetings Act is meant to be as transparent as possible. You don't have to list the Declaration of Independence to say Declaration of Independence, but sometimes you have to be more specific than others.
Well, that's my whole reason asking this. And we take tonight's situation specifically, but it's like constant. You know, that person wanted this email read. So we read it. Because his complaint was he wasn't notified that he was going to be on the agenda. And that was a violation of Open Meetings Act. So we did what he asked us to do to try and make it so we're not violating the Open Meetings Act. And by doing that, now we have somebody else saying that we violated the Open Meetings Act by doing it.
I'm not going to respond, but I'll let you, everyone's entitled to their opinion. Everyone's
I
entitled to
get that.
utilize the office of the Attorney General.
I get that.
So when you ask a question about legal advice, I can only tell you what I know.
But
I'm not gonna break it down into what one party wants or what the other party wants.
I'm not looking for what parties want. I'm looking for what the truth is. Because to me, when you put down discussion pertaining to Supreme Court opinion, case number, blah, 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 and appeals to the Superior Court, blah, 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 Reed's Landscaping versus Town of West Warwick and foreign properties. To me, that's like you saying it's the Declaration of Independence. You don't have to write the Declaration of Independence out underneath it. It's everything that's incorporated in that. So to me, when you have that on there, it's everything that's incorporated in that and every individual that's incorporated with that as well.
That's not always true. Now, I'm not going to go any further. I will be glad to address this with counsel, my clients tomorrow.
I'm just trying to get things done the right way, that's all.
That's come up for several years as far as when you put a line item on the agenda, how far do you go? As far as height, weight, hair color, eye color, seriously. I
We
mean,
had ward reports, plain and simple.
exactly.
And that was a great thing for each council person to give a report, what's going on in their ward. Wasn't enough information. We had to nix it.
So who
And we
makes-
lost the violation.
so
We
who
did.
makes the determination as, for us as a council person? If we want to put something on the agenda, how specific it is, how specific it has to be.
Your town clerk, and if she has questions, you usually should ask the manager or me.
Okay.
Like, you know, it's like, use the Declaration of Independence as an example again. If that was just signed, we have to notify all 56 people that we're going to talk about the Declaration of Independence that signed it. I mean, that's just, it doesn't make sense. You signed it, you know what you signed, that's what you have to do with. Now, if we start talking about stuff outside of that, then I can understand.
What I would
you're saying.
recommend to this council, and hold on a sec, Jay. What I want to recommend to this council, and Sarah can get you the dates. The state runs these meetings and trainings every single year, and I know you've only been here 7 months. But I don't know what you took previous when you're in your previous council stint. But again, you can go to these meetings, you can express your concerns, you can give ideas, and they're going to tell you what you can and cannot do. And I suggest that each and every one of you go to those courses. I've done it in the past, 2006, 8, somewhere in there. It's been a long time, but not much has changed.
But right
And they
now,
came here.
if I may, the Open Meetings Act is not on the agenda, and you're discussing it in public comment.
Did the AG's office not offer to come to the
They did
West
already.
Warwick?
They have,
They've done it already.
they did.
Okay, but we're gonna go back before Ms. Williamson was on the council.
No,
What is
They
it?
did it when she was on the council.
No. I'm going prior to that.
Okay.
When I believe it was Miss Spotnik's OMA, and I hope I'm not violating by mentioning her name. But it was the violation that she put, and I guess there was another one at the same time, and they offered to come in to teach the council how to properly run and the proper way of doing an agenda and so on and so forth. And it was stated that their help was not needed, not necessary. They have a competent solicitor, and it was refused. I recall
Well,
that.
subsequent to that, Tom, actually, they did, since I've been on the council. they
Yes, I know
They have
that.
come in and they've given us slides, they've done all that. And sometimes it's not quite as clear even then. Yes.
Thank you.
Right.
Any other public comment? Need a motion to move into executive session.
Make a motion to move into executive session.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Have a good night.